As New Mexicans, we believe that every child deserves a quality education. The Every Student Succeeds Act, also known as ESSA, will engage families and communities in the education of our children and will ensure that students will reach their full potential.
Our schools will have a greater ability to ensure that our students are healthy, secure in their identities, connected to their community, and academically prepared for the future.
You've probably heard of No Child Left Behind, a federal education law that's been on the books since 2002. Now that the Every Student Succeeds Act is here, there are a lot of questions about how ESSA will work.
No Child Left Behind put a lot of control in the hands of the federal government, and ESSA seeks to bring that control back to our communities, giving the states, tribes, and local school districts the chance to call the shots on things like testing, teacher quality, and fixing failing schools.
Do I still have to take standardized tests? Yes. Students still have to take yearly tests in reading and math in grades 3 through 8, plus one in high school, and schools still have to report test scores.
ESSA wants states to look at a broader range of factors, focusing more on student learning. States have to pick at least one other indicator that gets at whether students have the opportunity to learn. That could be access to advanced coursework, school climate, or other innovative options. ESSA gives states a lot more flexibility when it comes to the tests themselves. Districts could decide that high school students could use the SAT or ACT instead of the state exam. Plus, under ESSA, a handful of states can experiment with new forms of testing, for example, allowing students to work together on performance tests instead of those fill-in-the-bubble tests.
Under ESSA, states are in the driver's seat when it comes to teachers. A few years ago, the Education Department gave the states some wiggle room on teacher certification process, as long as they ensured to evaluate teachers in part based on student test scores. Now, many teachers found this frustrating because it was hard to get accurate evaluations. States will now have the ability to evaluate and certify teachers in a locally responsive way, ensuring that the best and brightest are educating our students and building strong relationships with their students and understanding the diversity and strengths of our state.
ESSA says states must set their own standards to get students ready for college, work, and life without the need to take remedial courses. But the federal government can't tell states what their standards should be or encourage them to adopt a certain set of standards, including the National Common Core standardized testing.
States will have to identify and fix the bottom 5% of schools and those with really high dropout rates.
Not quite yet. It won't be fully in place until the 2017-2018 school year. This year is a time for stakeholder engagement to take place, a transition year. The state's waiver expires in 2016, and the new plan for New Mexico will launch in 2017-2018.
Many of the decisions about how to judge student performance, improve schools, and hold teachers accountable are going to be made by schools, school districts, and tribes. If we choose to stick with what we're doing now, we might get similar results to those of the past. If we create a very different direction though, one grounded in our local values, we could see big changes in our communities.
There are 23 school districts in New Mexico that serve Native American students. Specific changes on accountability have not yet happened, and the Public Education Department and local education agencies, aka your local school district, must work with the tribes to hear and incorporate their best interests. ESSA has reserved a seat at the table for tribes and pueblos to have intentional and meaningful consultations, ensuring that we are doing right by New Mexico students like me.
Any school that receives public funding has to comply with ESSA, and most tribal schools receive public funding either directly through the state or indirectly through the BIE.
Under ESSA, New Mexico has the opportunity to create a new vision for education, and the New Mexico Public Education Department is required to engage stakeholders in this process to address state policy.
We want to encourage students, families, teachers, school leaders, nonprofit organizations, and local leaders to engage in this process to bring the best ideas to the table. Let's collaborate to share our voices for what we want our future to be.
The old saying is still true today.
It takes a village to raise a child.
New Mexico is ready for ESSA.
And ready to stand up and work together to ensure that our students have a bright future ahead.